Eating certain foods without knowing their impacts can be risky for diabetics, but it doesn't have to be. Understanding what to avoid in your diet is crucial to managing your diabetes effectively. In this video, we'll explore 5 eating habits you should steer clear of to keep your blood sugar in check and maintain a healthier lifestyle. Top 5 eating habits diabetics must avoid. Number 1. Consuming excessive refined carbohydrates. All right, kicking things off with our first habit, consuming excessive refined carbohydrates. Now, if you're managing diabetes, it's really crucial to understand how refined carbs affect your body. You see, these are the carbs that have been processed, and in that process, they lose a lot of their fiber and nutrients. This means your body handles them very differently than it would whole grain carbs, and that difference is a big deal when it comes to managing your blood sugar. So, what's the main issue here? Well, the biggest concern with refined carbs for those with diabetes is how quickly they can send your blood glucose levels soaring. Because they're missing that fiber, which normally slows down digestion, these carbs break down into glucose super fast and get absorbed right into your bloodstream. This can lead to a sharp spike in blood sugar. And when your insulin isn't working as it should, managing these spikes becomes even tougher. Over time, if these spikes happen often, they can lead to some serious diabetes-related complications. It's really helpful to know where these refined carbs are hiding so you can make smarter choices. Think about things like white bread and pasta. They're pretty common in many diets, but they don't offer much in terms of nutrition beyond a quick burst of energy. Then there are processed cereals and crackers, especially the ones that shout convenience, often pack a lot of refined grains and sugars. And those can really contribute to those unwanted ups and downs in your blood sugar. And let's not forget baked goods like donuts, croissants, and cookies. These are usually made with refined white flour and are often loaded with sugar and unhealthy fats. That makes them a bit of a triple threat when you're trying to manage diabetes. White rice is another common culprit. It can cause a rapid jump in your blood sugar, much like white bread does. And really, any foods made with refined white flour, which covers a lot of convenience foods and snacks, should be eaten with caution, or perhaps avoided altogether. But the good news is, choosing better alternatives can make a huge difference. Try opting for whole grain bread and pasta, brown or wild rice, and cereals made from whole oats or bran. These options still have their fiber, which means the glucose is released more slowly and in a more controlled way. Now, to spot those hidden refined carbs, you'll need to become a bit of a label detective. Look out for terms like enriched flour or just wheat flour, which can be refined unless it specifically says whole wheat, and also corn syrup. Always try to pick foods where whole grain or whole wheat is right at the top of the ingredient list. Number 2, indulging in added sugars. Moving on to our second point, indulging in added sugars. For anyone with diabetes, added sugars are a real challenge. Why? Because they bring along a lot of empty calories and can make your blood glucose levels shoot up quickly. Unlike the natural sugars you find in whole fruits or dairy, which come with helpful things like fiber, vitamins, and minerals, these added sugars offer zero nutritional perks. They get absorbed so fast that they can easily overwhelm your body's efforts to manage blood sugar, making diabetes control that much harder. And you know, these added sugars are often hiding in plain sight in many processed foods where you might not even expect them. Sweetened beverages are definitely major culprits here. We're talking about sodas, fruit juices, even the ones that say 100% juice can be packed with sugar and no fiber, sweet tea, and sports drinks. These can all dump a huge amount of sugar into your system very quickly. Pre-made fruit-flavored yogurts can also be surprisingly high in added sugars. Yogurt itself can be a great healthy option, but many of the store-bought flavored kinds have a lot of extra sugar thrown in to make them taste sweeter. Then there are sauces and condiments. Think about ketchup, barbecue sauce, and even many salad dressings. These often contain a good amount of hidden sugar to boost their taste and texture. Of course, candy and sweet treats are pretty obvious sources, but it's their concentrated sugar content that makes them especially tricky for keeping blood sugar stable. Even something like canned fruit can be a source of added sugar if it's packed in that heavy, sugary syrup. A much better choice is to look for fruit canned in its own juice or in a light syrup. And naturally, things like jams, jellies, and preserves are high in sugar, so you'll want to use those very sparingly if you use them at all. It's really important to get the difference between natural and added sugars. Natural sugars are the ones already present in whole, unprocessed foods, like the fructose in fruits or the lactose in milk. These foods also give you essential nutrients. Added sugars, on the other hand, are those that get put in during processing or when the food is being prepared. Now, there are several sugar alternatives out there, but each one has its own set of pros and cons. You have non-nutritive sweeteners like stevia, sucralose, or aspartame. These don't raise blood sugar, which is good, but there's still some debate about their long-term health effects. Then there are sugar alcohols, like erythritol or xylitol. They have fewer calories than sugar and don't impact blood glucose as much, but some people find they can cause digestive upset. If you're looking to cut down on sugar cravings, a good approach is to gradually reduce your sugar intake. This gives your taste buds time to adjust. Also, focusing on whole foods, making sure you're drinking enough water, and finding healthy ways to manage stress can really help, because stress can often trigger those cravings for sugary things. Number 3, overindulging in high-fat animal products. Let's move on to our third habit to avoid, overindulging in high-fat animal products. There's a pretty strong link between how much saturated fat we eat, which is mostly found in these high-fat animal products, and how well we can manage diabetes. Eating a lot of saturated fat can actually make insulin resistance worse. That's a key problem in type 2 diabetes, and it means your body's cells have a tougher time using insulin to lower blood sugar. This could mean needing higher doses of medication, and it also bumps up the risk of complications like heart disease. So, which high-fat foods should you be particularly mindful of? Well, red and processed meats are high on the list. This includes beef, pork, and lamb, as well as things like hot dogs, sausages, bacon, and deli meats. These are often loaded with both saturated fat and sodium. Higher fat cuts of meat, like ribs or those nicely marbled steaks, also bring a lot of saturated fat to your plate. Organ meats, while they do have some nutritional benefits, can also be high in saturated fat and cholesterol, so there's something to think carefully about when planning your meals if you have diabetes. And don't forget poultry with the skin on. That skin is another source of saturated fat. A simple fix here is just to remove the skin before you cook or eat it. Full-fat dairy products are also on this list. Things like whole milk, butter, cheese, and sour cream are rich in saturated fats. Now, how do these foods affect insulin sensitivity? Well, diets high in saturated fats can actually mess with the way insulin signals to your cells. So even if your pancreas is making insulin, your cells just don't respond to it properly, and that leads to higher blood glucose levels. But the good news is, there are plenty of healthier protein options out there. Leaner cuts of meat, like loin or round, are much better choices. Skinless poultry, fish, especially fatty fish like salmon, which is packed with those good omega-3 fatty acids, and plant-based proteins like beans, lentils, tofu, and tempeh are all excellent. They give you protein with less saturated fat and often more fiber too. So, what are some strategies for cutting back on saturated fat? It starts with choosing those lean protein sources we just talked about. Also, make it a habit to trim any visible fat from meats before cooking. When it comes to dairy, go for lower fat options like skim milk, low fat yogurt, and reduced fat cheeses. And don't forget, how you cook your food matters too. Baking, grilling, broiling, or steaming are all much better than frying. And as always, reading food labels can really help you spot the saturated fat content in packaged foods. Number 4, relying on ultra-processed foods. Coming in at number 4 is relying on ultra-processed foods. These foods can be quite risky for anyone managing diabetes. That's because they usually come with a nutritional profile that's high in unhealthy fats, added sugars, sodium, and refined carbs, but pretty low in essential nutrients and fiber. This combination can make controlling your blood sugar a whole lot tougher. So, what are some common examples of these ultra-processed foods? Well, they're everywhere, and they're often marketed for being super convenient. Think about things like chips and microwave popcorn, especially the kinds that have extra butter or flavorings added. We've mentioned processed meats before, things like hot dogs, sausages, bacon, and deli meats. Not only are they high in saturated fat, but they also go through a lot of processing and often have added nitrates and sodium. Convenience meals and many frozen meals, while they might save you some time, can be packed with unhealthy fats, sodium, and hidden sugars, and they often don't offer much in the way of fiber or whole grains. Fried foods are another big one. This includes things like French fries, fried vegetables such as tempura, and really any other deep-fried items. They're typically high in unhealthy fats and calories, which can lead to weight gain and worsen insulin resistance. And then there are packaged snacks, cookies, cakes, pastries, and even many granola bars. These are often very calorie-dense, but don't offer much in terms of nutrients, instead giving you a quick hit of refined carbs and sugars. You see, the way these foods are processed really changes their nutrient quality and how they affect your blood sugar. When fiber is removed during processing, it means the carbohydrates get absorbed much more quickly, leading to those sharp spikes in blood sugar. Plus, important vitamins and minerals often get lost or reduced in the process. Another big issue with processed foods is the amount of sodium they contain. This is a particular concern for people with diabetes, as they're already at a higher risk for high blood pressure or hypertension. Too much sodium can make blood pressure problems worse and increase the risk of heart-related complications. So how can you avoid relying too much on these ultra-processed foods? Planning ahead is absolutely key. Things like meal prepping, always having healthy snacks like fruits, nuts, or yogurt available, and making an effort to cook more meals at home using whole ingredients can really make a big difference. And once again, reading labels effectively is so important when you're dealing with packaged foods. Make sure to look at the serving sizes, calories, total carbohydrates, paying close attention to the fiber and sugar content, the types of fat, especially saturated and trans fats, and the sodium levels. A good rule of thumb is to look for shorter ingredient lists with names you recognize as whole foods. Number 5, irregular eating patterns. And finally, our 5th habit to avoid is irregular eating patterns. For people with diabetes, the timing and consistency of your meals play a huge role in controlling blood glucose. If your eating patterns are all over the place, it can lead to unpredictable swings in your blood sugar, making it really hard to keep those levels stable throughout the day. This kind of unpredictability can also make your diabetes medications less effective and even increase your risk of both high blood sugar, which is hyperglycemia, and low blood sugar, or hypoglycemia. Skipping meals, particularly breakfast, is a common habit that can definitely cause problems. When you skip breakfast after not eating all night, your blood sugar can dip too low. Then you might end up overeating later in the day, which can cause your blood sugar to spike. Starting your day with a balanced breakfast really helps to stabilize your blood sugar right from the morning. Having inconsistent eating schedules, where your meal times change a lot from one day to the next, can also throw your blood sugar control off track. Your body, especially when you're managing diabetes with medications like insulin or certain pills, really does best with a predictable routine. Eating very large meals, especially if they're packed with carbohydrates, can overwhelm your body's ability to process all that glucose. This can lead to pretty significant spikes in blood sugar after you eat, and this can happen even if the foods you're eating are generally healthy. Eating late at night can also be an issue, especially if you're having large meals or sugary snacks close to when you go to bed. This can lead to higher fasting blood sugar levels the next morning because your body might not process that glucose very efficiently while you're sleeping. When we look at the science behind meal timing and diabetes, it really highlights how important regularity is. Eating consistently helps your meals work in sync with how your diabetes medications act in your body. It also supports overall metabolic stability and can even help regulate your hunger hormones, which can prevent you from overeating. The key here is to create an eating schedule that you can actually stick with, and that fits your lifestyle. This doesn't mean you have to eat at the exact same minute every day, but it's about establishing a general pattern for your meals and snacks. A good goal is to aim for 3 balanced meals a day, and maybe add in 1 or 2 healthy snacks if you need them to manage hunger or to prevent your blood sugar from dropping too low between meals. And remember, portion control is super important for managing blood sugar, no matter when you're eating. Simple things like using smaller plates, measuring out your food portions, and really paying attention to your body's hunger and fullness signals can help prevent you from eating too much, even if you have a regular meal schedule. I really can't stress enough how important it is to balance your meals with your medication. If you're using insulin or certain oral medications, you absolutely have to coordinate your food intake with the timing and dosage of your medication to avoid those dangerous ups and downs in your blood sugar. And of course, talking regularly with your healthcare provider is essential to get this balance just right. Additional considerations. Now let's touch on a few additional important points. First off, it's really important to remember that everyone's body responds to food a bit differently, especially when it comes to blood sugar. What might cause a big spike in blood sugar for one person could have a much milder effect on someone else. This can be due to all sorts of things like your genetics, the bacteria in your gut, and your overall metabolic health. Next, let's talk about exercise. The role of exercise, working hand in hand with your diet, is absolutely crucial in managing diabetes. Regular physical activity helps your body use insulin better. It can help with weight management, and it contributes to better blood sugar control and a healthier heart. Think of diet and exercise as a team. They work together synergistically. Also, consistently monitoring your blood glucose levels gives you incredibly valuable feedback. It shows you exactly how specific foods, when you eat your meals, and your physical activity are affecting your body. This information is what empowers you to make personalized tweaks to your diabetes management plan. And finally, please remember that working closely with your healthcare team, your doctors, dietitians, or diabetes educators, is so important. They are the ones who can help you personalize your diet, adjust your medications if needed, and provide that ongoing support and education that's tailored specifically to you and your health. So, to wrap things up, Managing diabetes through what you eat is about much more than just staying away from certain foods. It's really about developing eating habits that you can sustain in the long run. By being mindful of these 5 problematic eating patterns we've discussed, individuals with diabetes can gain better control over their blood sugar levels, significantly reduce their risk of complications, and ultimately improve their overall health and quality of life. Now, we'd love to hear from you. Have you struggled with any of these eating habits? Or perhaps you found some really successful strategies to overcome them. Please do share your experiences in the comments below. And if you found this information helpful, we'd be grateful if you'd share it with others. And don't forget to subscribe for more tips on managing diabetes.